Okay, so we're good. All right, I'm sensitive to the fact that we have a schedule and it's 20 to 10. Apparently at 10 o'clock you have coffee and cake already paid for. And this thing is supposed to end at 10:30. So let's roll. And when you have coffee and cake, enjoy it. If you can, make it 15 minutes so that we can take advantage of this. Otherwise, I'll buy you all coffee and cake later on. Okay, so I think that you can sense or understand that there's a lot of juicy information to explore here. And you've asked a few questions. I've done my best, directly or indirectly, to kind of move around the subject to at least begin to address your questions with answers. What I need right now is help from you. If you have a specific question, because I can generalize continuously. That might be interesting, but we have a time constraint. Some of you have come a long ways. So if you have a question now and you want me to do my best to directly answer it, ask the question. And Mark, I can't read your name, Marge? I'm not forgetting what you had asked. Let's see if we can get to it, okay? Because it's a little bit of a sidecar, but I'll make a mention. Gentleman at the back, the blue shirt.
Yes, have you ever found any side effect after using Neuro?
Yes, the question is, I'll repeat it for the camera. Have you ever seen or experienced or known of any side effect having used the Neuro? Yes, sometimes people feel really good. Sometimes they don't feel good. And the don't feel good is in two related categories, the don't feel good. The one is that there's been a certain amount of stress, but if you bring stress just to the trigger point, that's healthy. You know, because you're asking the brain to do something that it can almost do. So there's a little bit of a whew after, right? In that neuroplastic period, that 2-hour period, in this hyperplastic state, you can get echoes of the yummies, or you can get echoes of, that was a little challenging. It's like, you know, again, a dance teacher, and the dance step was a little bit difficult for you, and you feel a little bit of stress there. The other is, and there's a third category. The second category is when you really did too much. You did too much. You know, you will see that if you have a Neurolite, that the sessions are specifically 11 minutes, 22 minutes, 33 minutes. 33 minutes is stupid. I bow to an opinion that some people will want to do a lot, so I put in 33 minutes as a user interface. It's almost entirely useless and is usually a good way of overkill. 11 minutes is highly potent, and 22 minutes can be used occasionally if you really know that this is the direction you want to go and you have the capacity to tolerate 22 minutes. Now, even a sitcom at a half an hour is actually 22 minutes of programming, but they don't do all the commercials at one time. They break it. This is not by chance. There's a great deal of study into human attention. A great deal of attention to attention in marketing and in entertainment and everything like that. So you can have a negative side effect, which is short term, by the way. There's no way of like frying your brain or doing something. It's just like, oh, that was a bit too much. So then you've got to get out of that vibe, get out of that feeling. So enough is enough. One of my bumper stickers is, try to achieve the most while doing the least. Okay? Try to achieve the most by doing the least. Instead of thinking that the most comes from the most. It's not. You know, I don't know if you know the Arndt-Schultz law. Well, but anyway, basically Arndt-Schultz law out of biological systems is that weak signals increase and strong signals either inhibit or decrease. This is well known, like with the pyrolite, for example, that bioresonant levels of magnetic pulsing are better than strong signals that the system has never been able to tolerate in nature. So try to achieve the most while doing the least. There are people that are light sensitive. There are people that are epileptic, that are seizure prone. That's probably the most radical, overtly negative effect. And I recommend you use a waiver form anytime you're giving sessions to the public. And I've put it out there. You can have it anytime. I've given you a recommendation. Don't use it because I said so. Different countries have different legal perspectives on waiver forms. So I give it to you. It's there. You can ask for it anytime if you don't have it. It's conjoined with the Neurolite Practical Guide for Beginners. It's stuck there now. And give it to some legal authority in your country and say, can you review this? It says, all the nice things, but one of the paragraphs is, now, have you ever had a seizure or seizure-like symptoms? Yes, no. The person must check yes or no. And then there's a paragraph that says, flashing light. And this is not the Neurolite, this is any flashing light. It's a big problem in the video game industry right now, where there are people that are being triggered into seizures because of the signaling. So this is something that the Neurolite doesn't make it happen. These are sensitivities in some people. It's like an unknown allergy. I didn't know I was allergic to shellfish until I ended up in ER. So I have them read that, yes, no. If they check yes, guess what? I'm not going to give them a session. I don't care what you say. Sorry, go find somebody else. I don't believe in that level of risk just because you think you can tolerate it or something like that. I don't have a medical license to do this. If you go into Grand Mall, so I say no. Then in the paragraph, it says that there is also, even if you don't know, you say no, I have a no. That's a good first step. And then there is a known rare risk of seizure-like symptoms in people that have never experienced seizures before when experiencing flashing light. You've got to be aware of that. And you do not hold responsible the developer, the manufacturer, the owner, the operator. It's a known risk. And if you experience any kind of discomforting experience during the session, raise your hand, I'll immediately remove the light. And then they have to initial that paragraph. At the very bottom, they have to sign, date, print their name, sign their name. I've worked in complementary and integrative healthcare my whole life. Be wise.
Nasal light, 2 questions.
Yes.
One, have you experienced or been aware of any passage clearing in the sinuses?
Yeah, once in a while the sinus will drain. You go, whoa! I used to live in Malibu and play in the water, bodyboard, and so you're in the water all day. Then you're sitting at home later on having dinner, and what was that? So yeah, categorically, the companies out of China are able to make a claim for rhinitis, sinusitis using the nasal light because it's very helpful for local symptoms. It decreases inflammation in local tissues as well as systemically, and sometimes a sinus can open and clear.
So specifically, I had a rash that developed up in the forehead area,
A rash.
And then the sinuses looked like tunnels that were, Rich saw this, that were illuminated a bit for about 3 days. Yeah,
you probably have a dormant sinus infection, is my guess.
There was a noticeable difference after that. It felt like passages were clear.
Yeah, in case the video can't hear it, John is saying that he used a nasal light and he had a rash-like pattern on his face, and afterwards it cleared and he felt better. This is really in a known local benefit zone for what I call brain food, the nasal light. After that, the list of benefits is more than impressive. It's like almost unbelievable. To quote Margaret Mead, her famous anthropologist, she says, "This is the kind of proof that I wouldn't believe even if it is true."
The second question, the correlation between nasal light and neuro light, notable documented benefits of using them together in the session.
Okay. The question is, I'll paraphrase slightly. There's this thing called the nasal light, and it's a separate device, as you know. We source them from China. It's a good quality, well priced, good design. There are many companies that make them. And it's conjunctive use with the Neurolite. Using the nasal light during the session is a good option if a person has evidence of low neuroplastic capacity. If they're at an adequate level, it's not going to harm, but it's not mandatory. So you can use it creatively. To get the most benefit out of the nasal light, half an hour twice a day. One of those half hours can be right at bedtime. It is not stimulating because it's energizing. Don't confuse those two. Because you've got gas in the tank doesn't mean your car is going to go fast. Okay? That's the accelerator. That's different. When you sleep, the brain is highly active. It's almost more active when you're asleep than right now when you're awake. It takes energy. ATP, phosphate bonded, light from the sun translated into a chemical and back into a biophysical, so that oftentimes, paradoxically, a person can't sleep because they don't have enough energy. I mean, I don't know, people that are, I'm just whipped. I am so tired. I can't wait to lay down and go to sleep. They lay down and they just can't sleep. It's not related to fatigue. They're energy deficient. From Chris is not here now, but in an Oriental medicine, probably the most common diagnosis is kidney qi deficiency. What does that mean? You don't have enough gas in the tank. You don't have enough blood in your body to do everything at the same time. The blood has to be shared by volume. So ATP levels have a profound impact on any function. By the way, sleep is a function.
John. Is there any difference with being in a vertical position or horizontal position?
You mean the person or the light itself?
The person.
Okay, the question is, does it matter if you're standing up, sitting up, or laying down, or upside down, I suppose, with the nasal light? I'll skip the upside down. Not that I'm aware of, other than the fact that the more, if you're erect, you're using more muscular energy than when you're laying down. And the beauty of the stimulation from the nasal light is that it creates a charge in the blood. I won't go into the chemistry and the physiology, but it creates a negative charge in the blood, structuring the plasma base. And charge differentials, it offloads wherever there's a charge deficit. So wherever there's high metabolic activity, it'll be hungry. Like when you eat, I had some eggs and toast this morning when I came here. How does the egg nutrition know to get to my left foot? It's not like the one egg was coated left foot and the other egg was coated right foot. What about my hands? So, when it goes in through assimilation for utilization, it's on an as-needed basis, metabolic demands. The thing is, do you have enough circulation, microcirculation for delivery, right? So, with the nasal light, it'll be attracted. The charge will offload to the negative deficit, where the charge is in deficit, then it tends to go there. And the brain uses more energy than any other concentrated organ in the body, which means there's a very high probability that a good deal of the light activation is going to be situated in the brain. Now, but if you're going like this and pumping, guess what? You're going to divert it away into the muscle system. Or if you have an injury or an inflammation, there's a high metabolic demand. It's a glorious system, Okay, sir.
Is the nasal light at any specific frequency?
No. Don't mistake wavelength and frequency. Right? Wavelength is the color of the light, you could say. Right? This is the devices that we recommend, although there are others, is at 640 nanometers. It's a laser diode, so it's pretty crisp around 640. It's a plus minus of like 3 to 4 nanometers. So it's around 640, visible red. And that's the wavelength, the color. Now, are you blinking it? Are you pulsing it? If you pulse it, then you can pulse at a certain rate or frequency, hertz pulses per second. That unit does not pulse, so it's constant. It's a constant light of 640 nanometers wavelength. Now there are systems that will pulse 640. So, the most famous pulse rate is 10 hertz. In the brain, the 10 hertz is considered kind of the idling frequency of centralized functions in the brain. 10 hertz is kind of like, it idles at 10 hertz. But actually, the three most important frequencies for the brain, because the brain is a symphony, you understand, If you see on EEG, it's according to the algorithms in the EEG as to what you're reading. And most of them just average. Like a stupid example, if I put one electrode here, and one here, and this was 10 hertz, this is 20 hertz, this is 30 hertz, and I average them, the outcome is 20 hertz, even though this is 10 and this is 30. So, the algorithm interpretations are variable. So, the three magic frequencies, 2, 10, and 40, those are, I have one video where I say the brain is like perfume. When you create a perfume, there's a bottom note, a middle note, and a top note. And the brain is like perfume. It has these, roughly speaking, 3 domains of activity that are all synchronous. They're all happening at the same time. Right? You've got the 2 hertz, which is acting almost like a big carrier wave. Slow to change, ever present. And then you've got 10 hertz, which is like modulating on the carrier wave. And then you've got the really volatile stuff changing in a blink of an eye, literally, right, at about 40 hertz. 40 hertz is, sometimes they say it's like the conductor of the symphony, analogies. So that's why, I know that we're attracted to a concept of brain entrainment as a model to discuss how to converse with the brain. Entrainment is real, but limited in its effects. Famously low on retention, famously low on long-term learning. Sorry, that's just the fact. Understanding how to create compositions. I sometimes say that because in the neurolight, the light and the sound are actually composed. It's one experience. So I say, because it's almost 10 o'clock for coffee and cake time, that the sound is like a rock band. Maybe you heard me, I use the same examples, I'm sorry. But you should develop your own examples, look at the principle. And once you've got the principle of what it is, you can derive explanations from your own life for the people you talk to. You don't have to repeat mine. You'll see evidence. It's like, oh, that's just like this. So that's your analogy. I say it's like a rock band. The sound is like the drummer and the bass player. They hold it together. They create the matrix, the context. You may not be that aware of them, but if they stop playing, you'd be really aware of them, not being there. And then the light is like the lead guitar and the vocalist. So the sound is like the drummer and the bass player. Actually, you can just play the sound and it's a full session. Although it may not be as dynamic. Well, it won't be as dynamic, frankly. But there are people that are light sensitive, like a person that reports seizures. Hey, say fine, here, let's just do the sound. Okay, go for it. It's there. It's not music, by the way. I use what's called mood framing, certain musical phrases, but it's never a musical composition. So don't think it's just a tune. There are at least 5 to 7 layers of signal modulation in any sound file. Even the sound itself, whatever mood framing I'm using, let's say it's a babbling stream or some kind of drone sound, that signal is modulated, happens to be modulated at 40 hertz. So the sound is not music. It has a musical mood framing. So if you had the rock band and the sound is like the drummer and the bass player, and the light is like the lead guitar and the vocalist, if you're the producer and you're listening to just the vocalist track, and you're listening to just the drummer track, you might not even, well, of course you're the producer, you would know, but if you're naive, you might not even realize they're playing the same song. Does the singer go bump, 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 bump? Does he try to mimic the drum? No. Does the drum try to mimic the vocalist? No. But in compositional style, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So that's why the light and sound here is compositional. This is not brain entrainment, where the sound is pulsing at the same pulse as the light. Or even some night, it's so easy in the YouTube right now and, personal computing. I mean, there's like thousands of binaural beat, it's like binaural beat. I mean, really? That's what you're doing? It's a real fundamental aspect. I wish I was a musician. I love music. I just can't do it. I tried guitar when I was young and I was hopeless. But, musicians, and I know some of you may or may not like it, but in jazz, they're cracking the code. Music is the way it is because the brain is the way it is. It's not, it would be the most cosmic coincidence because humans have tried to make music since we know, whether it's just hollering and pounding on a log or something, all the way up to what we do now. We like to make music and we like to listen to music. Now, it would be the most cosmic coincidence if that was just by chance. No, why do we love music? Because that's the way our brain is. To me, music is the closest evidence of how the brain speaks to itself. I could have same examples. I could have a really sad experience happening to me, something really tragic. And if I was a musical composer, not a light sound composer, I would create a tune, a song, that really tried to express my grief, my sorrow, my loss. No words, no lyrics, no title, and have somebody play it and then say, here, listen to this. I don't say anything. Just listen to this. You're listening to this thing, I'll bet you start to experience the sadness, the grief. It's just a bunch of sounds, pitches and rhythms, right? Tones. How do you know that you're supposed to feel sad? It's because it's so close to the way the brain experiences sadness that you feel sad. So that was is my attempt with the neurolight compositions, not just with the sound, but with also the light, that this is the way the brain behaves, speaks to itself when and whatever you choose, whether you're in the brain gym or the network reinforcements or whether you're working in the brain skills. If you were to experience that skill set and you were able to map the brain's activities, it would be like this. Okay, it's a couple minutes past 10. By request, I'm inviting you to enjoy your coffee and cake. As soon as you come back, I'll start talking, even if it's just one of you. Enjoy your break. Thank you.